Well, hello there, dead and lovely listeners. It's time for a brand new mini-sode of Dead and Lovely, your favorite horror movie podcast in this multiverse and beyond. Here with the host with the most, why, it's me, Uncle Ben.
Me, Hollywood Steve.
And we got a set of ovaries in this room. Why, it's...
Me.
Who dat?
Who dat?
It's Tante Kate.
Hi. It's my wife. And we are here to tell you guys that, for one, we are playing with our gigantic dog, Zora. So if you hear some pitter-pattering of paws or maybe a ball being thrown in the background, that's just this big old girl trying to have herself some fun.
She's so cute.
She's so cute. And other than that, we're here to talk to you guys about the newly released Dr. Sleep.
Yeah!
Which just came out in the movie theaters. Kate and I saw it yesterday. You saw it just a scant few hours ago.
I did.
And we're here to talk to you guys about it. First, we're going to do a little spoiler-free review for everybody who's just curious about whether you should see it or not.
Yeah.
Then we're going to get real spoilery. Among the three of us, Kate is the only one who's read the book.
Book spoilery too.
Yeah.
Big
We're
time.
going to get full spoilers.
Yeah, so you guys be sure to keep a listen on here. We'll put a timestamp and stuff in the podcast description to let you guys know when stuff gets spoilery. But I want to get straight into this thing.
Let's do it.
Is your first thoughts about this movie as a book reader, my lovely wife?
It was really good. They stuck to the book pretty closely. I was actually shocked how close they stuck to the book. I think like halfway through the movie, I was like, wow, they're doing a really amazing job to be a Stephen King movie adaptation.
Okay.
It did really well up until the third act.
Right. Okay.
And just for reference, you read the book a couple months ago, and you did enjoy it. And also, you're a giant Shining fan, correct?
It was about a year and a half, 2 years ago. And yes to the rest of it. So,
Okay.
yeah, I enjoyed the book. It's not a great piece of literature. It's a fun read, which, you know, sometimes that's all you want.
I mean, I think that's true of most Stephen King books. It's not like the greatest literature in the world, but it's good horror.
Yeah, it's a really good Stephen King book.
Okay.
So, and it fit The Shining. It's not on the same tier. You're never going to be on the same tier. But it fit The Shining. It follows it pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
I liked the detail. I liked the new magic that was evolved. It was good.
Okay.
Steve, what are your first thoughts about this? I know that you're also a big old Shining fan as well.
My thoughts about this are that this is a good movie when it moves a bit away from what The Shining did.
Okay.
It's a real great movie in those moments. When it gets closer to The Shining, when it gets back to the original, it seems to rely more on nostalgia than storytelling.
Yeah, I know what you mean. And it's very...
Strongly agree.
It's very tough to avoid that. It's one of those things where when you are doing a follow-up to what many, especially myself, consider to be the greatest horror movie of all time, and you've had... now at this point basically 40 years to soak up that movie and worship that movie and analyze every little thing about it, and then somebody asks you to do a follow-up.
Yeah.
That's pretty fucking hard. And it's like, honestly, anything you do that harkens back to The Shining, people will label as, oh, you're just cashing in on nostalgia. Of course.
Yeah.
Stephen King also waited fucking 40 years
to cash in on
nostalgia and do a sequel. So it's hard not to run into that.
That's true, and you're going to have to deal with it no matter what, I think. And that's probably why this was never going to be on the same level as The Shining, or even...
There's no way it would come close.
It couldn't, because it has to deal with the first movie. And because it has to deal with that, it's going to get into some nostalgia at this point, because we're so far away from it. What are we, 39 years away?
39 years, yeah.
Yeah, so we're so far away from it, but we've all rewatched The Shining a million times. We're horror fans.
Oh, yeah.
And let's just go ahead and cover this before we get deeper into the podcast. We all agree it's not as good as The Shining. There's no point in even comparing it to The Shining.
Yeah, there's not. There's no reason to compare.
Book or movie, Shining's better.
Yeah.
Obviously.
So
let's not even try to base this...
Start there,
yeah.
Yeah, let's not even try to base this on, well, how does it stack up to The Shining? There's no point...
It doesn't.
It doesn't.
It doesn't.
Right.
Yeah, no. It really,
so it's
it really
not Everest, for sure. but it might be another tall mountain.
Yeah, it's its own little semi mountain before you're like, oh, this is so beautiful.
Yep.
Fuck, we got more to go through.
Yeah. I think that this movie is good and worth a watch, but I have a lot more to say about it in the spoiler section.
That's fine. That's fine. Let's kind of talk about some of the stuff that we can talk about in the non-spoiler section. This movie was directed by Mike Flanagan.
Great. Love Mike Flanagan.
Here's the thing. I don't.
Yeah, okay, yeah. All right.
You know, so like going into this, knowing that he did Haunting of Hill House, which
did.
I was critical of.
I
Yes,
hated
sir.
it.
You just flat out hate it.
I fucking hated
I
House.
mentioned a few episodes ago that my wife and I watched through it because she hadn't seen it, and it was
She
my
loved it, right?
second watch through. She loved it, and I liked it a lot more the second time.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, maybe I should give it another spin sometime.
Maybe.
But honestly, I don't think that I like it that much.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't think you have to. I think I found a lot in it the second time that was admirable and good, but if you really didn't like it the first time around, you're not gonna get much out of it second time around.
I have found that when I try to rewatch movies to be like, oh no, it's better the second time around.
It doesn't work.
Oh no, it's so much worse. I'm like, no, you know where I thought this was irritating?
Yeah.
No, it fucking sucks.
Gotcha.
So, considering that The Shining is my favorite horror movie of all time,
Yeah.
and the book is one of my favorite books of all time too. I mean, I am flat out obsessed with The Shining. I have been ever since Kate and I watched it. Well, you'd seen it
2003.
before. Yeah.
I know exactly when you watched The Shining.
Wow.
Yeah, you'd seen it before. I had never seen it. Wow. And I've been obsessed with that movie that long since then.
Yeah. That's wow. Okay. So
then
it wasn't that long ago, but it was a while ago.
It was a while ago. Yeah. And I have seriously just been like all about that movie ever since then.
Yeah, I get it.
And so then to find out that its sequel is going to be directed by this guy whose work I'm not exactly over the moon about, I went into this very skeptical. I was like, he's going to play into the melodrama aspect, just like Hill House did. Hill House to me was just so melodramatic, and then occasionally it would remember to be horror.
Right.
I was so very skeptical about this, and I think he did a pretty fucking good job.
I think so too.
I haven't read the book, so I can't really say exactly how well he captured the source material, but I thought the look of the movie, I thought even, and again, this is not spoilerish because if you've seen the previews, there's overlooked stuff in the movie.
Yeah.
Even when it went back to the overlook, I felt like it captured the spirit of the original pretty fucking well, above and beyond my expectations.
Yeah. I would say it does capture the spirit for sure. And as someone who wants films and books to be separate, I'm not too worried about how faithful an adaptation it was, as much as I'm worried that it's a good, well put together movie. And I think this movie works really well for 2 acts and then drags a little bit and kind of misses some of the great, interesting, creative stuff they did in the first 2 acts in that 3rd act.
And that's really where they deviated the most.
Okay.
So
yeah, we'll have to get into book spoilers in a little bit.
Yeah.
Because I don't know anything about the book at all.
Well, the impression that I get is that they were really trying to straddle the line between being a sequel that would appeal to fans of the Shining movie and of the Shining book. There were multiple references to stuff that were in the Shining book that weren't in the movie. Even the talk of the Derwents and stuff like that. Like those are things that were straight from the book that were never mentioned in the movie.
I agree and think that they did try to match up what is a classic adaptation film to the only source material we have now, the book, which they did pretty well. And some of the changes, all of the changes, I know why they did them. A couple of the changes I agree with.
Okay. All right.
What did you guys think about the casting of the movie?
Well, Ewan McGregor is a goddamn treasure. I love that Ewan McGregor. Rebecca Ferguson, who I did not know, she is so good and gorgeous and she's her style is like fucking Swamp Witch or something. Swamp Witch who just walked out of a Starbucks because she's also wearing like yoga pants at some point.
Character modern Bohemia.
She's amazing.
like Crate and Barrel Bohemia.
Yeah.
Is kind of where she is.
Yeah.
And I like it.
Yeah, and she's absolutely gorgeous and a great actress.
I think she's enchanting. Like, she as a... Well, I don't know. I'll put it this way. I've seen a bunch of the reviews that have been like, man, her as a villain, she wasn't scary. The movie wasn't scary.
Yeah, that's ridiculous because the fact that she's so alluring makes her more scary. It's just like a vampire. Like,
well, that's the thing that I'm kind of getting at is like, ultimately, I don't know if this was supposed to be that scary of a story.
I don't know that it was either. Yeah.
Yeah, like something like The Shining is very obviously designed to be a scary, haunted house, maybe crazy person kind of story. But the thing about her character is I don't really know that she was supposed to be a spooky, scary villain. I mean, she's kind of a vampire, but she's also just kind of trying to make good for hers and so on.
I think this movie very consciously knows that it's a sequel to one of the best horror movies, if not the best horror movie ever made. So it realizes that it's not going to be able to be scary in the same way The Shining is scary, because if you make a sequel that's pretty much the first one,
you know all the monsters.
Yeah, boring. So this brings new monsters and new ways of being scared and new types of fear into it. And I think that's the only way you could possibly do a sequel to The Shining.
But at the same time, that's also how you get hardcore fans to piss all over it.
True.
And say, well, it's not like the original. It's not as scary as the original. Mm-hmm. It doesn't have to be.
It doesn't.
It really doesn't have to be.
It doesn't have to be. It just needs to be a new, different story.
I will say I enjoyed The Force Awakens.
Mm-hmm. I did too.
So I'm okay with a little bit of just like, hey, you know this thing you love? Let's slightly revisit it.
Yeah.
Boo.
Now, you liked The Force Awakens.
Oh, wait. Yeah, sorry. Last Jedi I didn't like. Force Awakens again. Never mind. Yeah, so Rebecca Ferguson, amazing, enchanting, gorgeous. I think that her accent was kind of all over the place. That very first scene in the movie. Well, here's the thing. Yeah. Okay.
Oh.
She's Swedish.
Uh-huh.
In the
it does.
In the very first scene, she is very Irish.
Uh-huh.
Later, she's Irish. But Kate, you have kind of an explanation for that might just be making up for crappy acting. I don't know.
I think it's very poor. I think it's very poor dialect acting.
Okay.
But you can explain it away by saying she's an ancient being.
Yeah.
Like they are near immortals.
Yeah.
So if she was originated in Ireland, which she did, and then she's lived so long in America or wherever else she's traveled in her centuries, you can kind of explain away a faulty accent a little bit, but ultimately I think it's just bad dialect.
Yeah, maybe. I think so. I think that's probably right.
And there's some other good casting and stuff in the movie, too, in the form of especially the new old casting, I'm going to call it. Again, I don't feel like this is spoiler territory. There's a lot of callbacks to characters that were in The Shining. We got Wendy Torrance. We got Scatman Crothers. And they are recast as new actors rather than doing deep fake, like face swap or CGI or anything like that, which I very much appreciate.
I did too.
I wonder how long those meetings lasted, though, where they sat there and decided,
because
do we want to do a face swap or not?
Yeah, because the technology is there, but it's expensive. And
do you want it? Jack Nicholson's not dead.
He's not, and you could probably de-age him, and he could. Yeah, that would be. Maybe it was just a thing where Jack Nicholson said no, and they were like, what are we going to do from here? Like, if Jack Nicholson's not back, we're not going to get anyone else back. So, I mean, Scatman Crothers is dead.
I can't imagine Shelley Duvall would.
Well, I
can't imagine she would agree to it.
From some issues for a while,
Yeah. One of the first shots in the movie is of Danny on the tricycle in the Overlook.
Yeah, and
I was watching it it's like shown from the back of the head, and I'm like, okay, this is obviously new footage because I don't recognize this from The Shining.
Yeah, and the lighting's a little different.
Exactly. And the kid's hair is like, okay, I know that this isn't Danny simply because I'm obsessed with The Shining and I've seen it a million times. And then he like turns to look at room 237 and you're like, oh, it's a different kid.
Right.
And that kind of establishes right away like, okay, guys, use your fucking imagination for a second.
Yeah.
We're recasting characters, and then later on, we meet a Scatman Crothers
Yes, we do.
dupe that is very fucking impressive. if you ask
Very
me.
impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean-
well, this is first act. Like,
It's all first.
yeah,
act,
and some of this is in the previews even.
and a lot
Yeah.
of flashbacks and stuff.
Yeah, so we won't reveal why Scatman Crothers is there, but Scatman Crothers is there, and the guy
Dick
they got,
Halloran.
yeah, the guy they got to play Dick Halloran looks very much like him.
Crazy. He looks
Yeah.
so much like him.
He sounds very much like him.
He's like a little stockier. He's a little less skinny
Yeah.
than Scatman Crothers, but dude,
Yeah,
his facial
face
expressions.
only, yeah.
Yeah,
Dude, the way that he does that thing that Scatman does where he would like kind of stick out his lower lip
Yeah.
a little bit.
uh-huh.
His vocal intonations
Yeah.
and rhythms are pretty fucking crazy.
Nails it.
Yeah, like the rhythm in which he speaks to Danny is so spot on. It's unbelievable.
So, Alex Esso as Wendy Torrance, she
Fucking crazy.
nails it like insanely. Like,
Do I know her from anything?
I don't know if I could name anything she's in, but she like, they got the hair right. I mean, they got the whole
Yeah.
look right. The hair,
And the
the ears
bathrobe
poking
and so
out
on.
all like a little bit from the, but all that. But then she just nails this Wendy Torrance impression.
Oh yeah, it's great.
What? It's so
her,
good.
Her intonation of her speech, and this is one of those things that I think a lot of people don't take into account whenever they're doing
Yeah.
or hearing an impression of somebody. The pitch and the way that her voice modulates up and down when she talks. When she's like, Danny,
Yeah.
Danny. Like, she mimics
Where
that
she
shit.
screams and runs across the street.
It's really perfect.
Uh,
Like she doesn't honestly like look all that similar to Shelley Duvall. I guess you could say she's
they're-
objectively like prettier. I guess you could say.
Yeah, they've got like they've put some like false teeth in, and I'm pretty sure
They had to push her
Yeah,
ears
her
forward.
ears are pushed out a little bit to try to look like it, but yeah, she doesn't look exactly like it, but
she
nails.
acts like it. Holy shit!
Yeah, Alex Esso is her name. She's also in Starry Eyes, which is a great horror movie, and Tales of Halloween, which is also a great
Not
anthology
seen
horror.
either of those.
Check them out. She really does though. She hits it so perfectly and acts like her level of concern and stuff for Danny is all very like on point. Like you can tell she worked her ass off to get there. And the kid who plays Danny, you're right. Like you can tell from the back he looks a little different. And the shot is a little different. The lighting is just slightly different. But I think all those slight differences actually serve the movie really well. Where it's like, okay, we're going to try to hit your favorites. We're going to try to be The Shining a
Exactly.
little bit. But also, we got this whole other story we're telling. And that story is really interesting.
What do you think about the girl that plays Abra, who is
Oh, she's so cute.
I
important
love
character.
her.
She is so freaking cute.
She's
yeah.
great.
Yeah,
Like,
she's great.
She matches Abra in the book.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
well. Of course, when I read the book, it was Abra
Yeah.
because I had nobody saying it out loud. to
Right.
me. But yeah, I loved it.
Yeah.
Also, I thought matching Abracadabra seemed corny. Stephen King.
It is corny, but that's Stephen King. Yeah, I thought that the way that she acted with Ewan McGregor was perfect. Like they're a good.
Their chemistry was great.
and that's probably a lot of him working his ass off to be like not intimidating to a young actress, and then her not being intimidated.
He's not he's a good actor, but he
Yeah.
doesn't play strong characters.
Right? Yes. Yeah.
So-
he's Obi-Wan. He's not.
Yes.
Yeah. He's not Anakin.
So when I saw that they cast him, I got a little. I mean, because he's not
Yeah.
a strong. But then Danny's not a strong
No,
person.
he's not.
He's an alcoholic.
Yeah.
Which I mean, that's one of the opening scenes. It's like he's
Yeah, that's what we learned
He's-
about Danny.
yeah.
Is he's become like his dad. He's an alcoholic and he's suffering, and then
so it makes sense for it to be somebody not quite as like with a powerful aura
Yeah.
that
yeah,
you would
that
normally
would be
cast in a
odd.
lead.
Yeah, that would be odd.
I think that Abra and him interacting kind of had a little bit of a Stranger Things vibe with
Yes.
11. And,
yeah, 11 and the sheriff. Yeah,
Yeah, it had a little bit of that kind of vibe for me going on, which again works pretty well.
yeah. I think that relationship goes back to Paper Moon with Tatum O'Neal. Like the idea of this like child who is a little beyond their years and this adult who is a little below their years, who's had so much like traumatic shit happen to them that they're just not adulting to their maximum. They're still struggling, which is, that's what's his name in Stranger Things too. His wife has died, or his kid has died, his wife has left him, and he's just kind of stuck.
He's just aimless.
Yeah,
makes sense.
I don't know exactly how much deeper we can go before we get into like super spoiler territory.
Yeah, because we're pretty much out of stuff to say. We're
kind of on the edge before we can get really spoilery. So I'll just I'll kind of start us off here and just say that, like, as somebody who is certifiably obsessed with The Shining, and The Shining is my all-time favorite movie. It's my all-time favorite horror movie, and I have seen it countless amount of times. And I was so skeptical about this. I was so skeptical about Stephen King writing a sequel. Mm-hmm. And then, like I said, I found out that Mike Flanagan's directing.
And you're not a big fan.
Not a fan. Mm-hmm. Very skeptical. The fact that I'm walking away from this movie a day later and being like, yeah, it was good.
Do you think it was because of your low expectations?
Maybe.
Probably. I think that it's part of it. I think that is part of it. I think the fact that, like, I was like, there's no way anything can follow up my fucking number one favorite of all time.
Yeah.
And then we start watching this movie, and I keep turning to you, and I'm like, I'm on board with this. This is okay. This is pretty good. I said it like fucking 10 times during the movie.
Yes, you did talk throughout the whole movie to me.
I don't know what you mean.
Ben's a movie talker, guys.
Well.
Yes, he is bad.
I was also in a slightly altered state as we were watching the movie, so that might have something to do with it. I don't know. But the fact to me that I left this movie and I was like, was it as good as The Shining? Of course not.
Yeah.
But it's the kind of thing where, honestly, the best way that I would think about it is it's as though really great fan fiction was turned into a movie.
Yeah.
It feels like really good fan fiction that got turned into a movie.
That's valid.
And I'm pretty okay with it. So I recommend it. If you're a fan of The Shining, I recommend checking it out.
Kate's going to tell us what she thinks. She stops laughing at me validating Ben.
The fan fiction thing is like, this is somebody who's never read fan fiction because there's nowhere near enough like boy on boy sex.
Yeah.
Hey, I've read tons of Final Fantasy VII fan fiction on the GIA.org in fucking 2000. Thank you. The Gamers Informers Agency. It was a great site. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I had low, mid-level expectations. Mm-hmm. I didn't know who the director was. Didn't look him up, though.
Right.
So if I had looked him up, I would have had lower expectations.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And the book, I love The Shining. I grew up with The Shining. I watch it annually. Mm-hmm. It's a great movie. Yeah. I don't buy into any of the conspiracies.
Me either.
None of them. I live with this man who just is constantly like, did you hear this? And maybe this could mean this. And it's like, no.
It's the history of America. That's what it is.
It's not. It's
I
really
do buy
not.
into that conspiracy.
It's not a conspiracy. It's fact.
Uh-huh.
It's okay. So I enjoy it. I watch it. I love it. Don't buy into any of the depth. I think it's a pretty movie.
It is.
I liked the book. Don't think there was any depth to the book, Dr. Sleep. So I'm okay with it. Like, and they fit together. The movie did pretty well. I got pretty mad at the ending, which we'll discuss.
Yeah,
in the
we'll get
spoiler.
into that. Yeah.
But for the most part, I really enjoyed it. I was surprised how much I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Whenever Ben did turn to me and say, "This is really good,"
yeah.
I was like, "You know what it is."
I don't want to slap you right now.
Yes,
I agree.
It's true.
Yeah, I'm with you guys. I think that, like, going into it, I'd already dealt with of course this isn't going to be The Shining. Duh. If it had been, it would have just been a pleasant surprise. But it's a really competent horror movie with some real interesting ideas that I enjoyed.
And I like the way that they portrayed a lot of them, too.
Yeah.
They look good.
They look great. I do like Mike Flanagan. I liked Ouija 2, Origins of Evil. I liked Absentia. Gerald's Game is not my favorite, but it's mostly because of the story itself and not because of the direction. I think that Mike Flanagan, who is obviously a Stephen King fanboy, really big on him, I think he was able to do something with this that was real interesting for 2 acts. And then for a 3rd act, he really did have to deal with The Shining, and there was no way that was going to be great.
But again, going back to like the stuff that we talked about on our It Chapter 2 minisode and stuff like that, it's like we kind of all know that Stephen King isn't exactly the king of clutch. He's not the king of like writing the best fucking ending. So it's like, oh, you mean there was a Stephen King story where the 3rd act wasn't great? What the fuck else is new?
True. So I'm not going to put that on Mike Flanagan. I'm going to say that Mike Flanagan did a great job directing this. Ewan McGregor is really good. The cast is great. It's worth a watch. I think it's worth a watch. It's maybe you don't run out first week in the theater, but go check it out. I think.
Yeah, definitely go see it.
Yeah,
it's good.
I think in the theater it's probably a little bit better than it's going to be at home. It had a good look.
Yeah, there's a lot of good atmosphere.
Yeah,
it's worth seeing.
So yeah,
it's
go check it out.
The camera work, which we'll delve more into, but like I really like the cinematography and the art direction of this movie is really good. Like it's worth watching, even just for nostalgia's purposes. It's still good.
It really is. I agree.
So yeah, I think overall the consensus that we're coming to here is if you like The Shining, I don't think that you should be disappointed by this. So
no,
go scope it out. Again, it's fucking my favorite movie ever. The Shining is my favorite movie ever.
Yeah.
So trying to follow this thing up is basically impossible. And I think this movie doesn't try to be a follow-up to The Shining.
No,
It'd be a huge mistake if it did.
Yeah, it really does have its own unique story going from beginning to near the end.
Yeah, and I know and I know a lot of like Shining fanboys that will be very disappointed by this and be like, oh, it's nothing like The Shining. Well, it's like, well, yeah, but it wasn't really trying to be. So
no, it wasn't.
Just let it be what it is. I enjoyed it.
Well, and even the book is not written in the same tone.
Yeah.
So it...
Yeah, and written so many years later, too. Of course, Stephen King's not going to capture the same tone he had before,
But I think it would have failed harder.
Yeah, if he had tried to.
If either avenue tried to match that up.
Yeah.
So that being said, we recommend you go see it. And now, beware.
Spoilers!
From here on lies spoilers. Spoilers be ahead.
Oh no!
Fancy wings on the backs of Honda Prelude. Spoilers. Making them aerodynamic and able to Tokyo
Is that still
drift.
a thing? That's not still a thing, right?
I'm not sure.
I bet it is in Morristown.
In Morristown, Tennessee, it probably
That's
is.
so Morristown. So from here on out, we're going to be talking about some spoilers and stuff. And this is where I really want to hear Kate's point of view because you're the only one who's read the book.
Yeah, I'm excited to know more about the book here.
So break us down a little bit here. I know you said that the ending of the movie is very different from the book.
Okay.
But let us know what other shit is missed, skipped, left out, omitted, whatever.
One of the biggest surprises for me, also major book spoilers too. I mean, the book came out in 2013. What the fuck are you doing if you've not you're not going to read it at this point?
Yeah.
Or you shouldn't care about spoilers.
True.
I imagine Billy as much older.
Okay. So the guy who plays Billy, who's the best friend of Danny.
Correct. Yeah. And like, I pictured him as much older. At one point, he has like a heart attack or a stroke or something. It's been, like I said, it's been almost 2 years, like a year and a half since I read it. So it's been a while.
But he has an age perhaps related.
Yeah, and they talk about him like retiring at some point. And like I put him maybe not a full generation older than Dan, but closer to the next generation than he was to Dan.
In the movie, they're about the same age.
Yeah, in the movie, they're very close to the same age, it seems. There's that doctor. I mean, do you want me to get into all of them?
Yeah, go for it.
So that doctor who he meets at the AA meeting, who he tells about the watch.
Yeah.
That guy is actually a major character. Like, he goes and digs up the kid.
Assumed
the
with the
baseball
actor
boy.
they got to play him, like
he's a major
Okay.
character. Like, it's actually Dan, Billy, and it's
so he's really
Dr.
convinced
John
by
Dalton.
Danny's knowledge that his watch was in this particular spot or whatever.
Okay, so his connection, his biggest, like, aside from him being like the three men are like three amigos.
Yeah.
His biggest connection to like interplaying all of this. So Dan helps him find his watch. So then he's like shocked, but he's not that surprised. And Dan calls him on it. It's because Dr. John Dalton is Abra's pediatrician.
What? Okay. Okay, so that connection makes that all make a bit
that
more
makes
sense.
a lot more
Yeah.
sense.
Well, and that also kind of ties into this whole sort of tied in LinkedIn world where I was reading some shit on like IMDb or whatever. And I guess apparently Abra,
I'll get there.
okay, is like Danny's like half sister or something?
No, I'll get there.
Okay, yeah, please tell because
I'll get there
that
too.
was intriguing. What's going on?
Yeah. So this guy who's in AA is very good friends with Billy, so he becomes very good friends with Dan. He's not that shocked by Dan's watch revelation because the narration is mostly through Dan.
Yeah.
So you get a whole lot of his just like chaotic alcoholic
Yeah,
mind.
I was going to say alcoholism induced insanity, yeah.
Right. So, and part of that is you see him like this guy's not freaking out that like I told him exactly where to find it.
Right.
And so when they
he's dealt with this before.
right. And so
Okay.
then we see that he like being Abra's pediatrician. Abra's. I'm going to do that a lot.
Abracadabra. Gotcha.
Being Abra's pediatrician is he saw like her parents were like, she's acting weird. She can make spoons float. What do we do with this?
Which
like,
we see in the movie. Yeah.
and so he's actually really involved with Abra's family because of their concern for Abra.
That all actually could have probably been included in the movie, would have improved it a little bit. Because I felt like that guy dropped off too quick because I was like, that's fucking... that guy's in
Great
a ton
actor.
of shit. He's a great actor. He was Gerald in Gerald's Game. Like, he's a good actor. He never shows up again.
He's supposed to go with Dan to unbury
That would have made more
the
sense
baseball
to me.
boy.
That
And
would have made more
Billy,
sense. Yeah.
who has been injured, or maybe that's when he had his stroke or whatever, is watching Abra while Abra does her astral projection thing.
Gotcha.
Billy stays outside of Abra's house, guarding Abra's house.
Yeah.
And Dan and the doctor go find the kid, which makes more sense too because the doctor is used to seeing more graphic items.
Yeah. And also, I felt like Billy's end was ignominy. Not exactly worthy of a guy who...
Probably because he doesn't die in the book.
Oh, okay. So in the movie, they were just
Really?
like...
So when fucking what's her name? Fucking Snakebite, Rattlesnake,
Snakebite Andy,
whatever,
yeah.
She's like, kill yourself.
Yeah.
Like when she said that, I was like, God damn, that is hard.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen.
No, not at all. I mean, it happens in a few of my like occult shows you make fun of all the time.
Yeah.
But
But not in this
the
book. Yeah. Yeah, that I felt like that was so tacked on, and I'm glad to hear it wasn't in the book, but I wish it wasn't in the movie at all. Like, there could have been another way to kill him if you want to get rid
none
of
of
him.
the main good guys die in the book.
Okay.
I do honestly think that it's pretty cool though.
Yeah, that
this
she had
fucking,
that power.
yeah, this like 15-year-old obviously like been through a lot of shit. in
And
her
she's
life.
dying
And
when
she's
she just says
dying.
offhand, kill yourself, and he kills himself.
Yeah, because she'd never
Yeah.
really done anything that extreme with like her mind control power. And then she's like, "You just fucking shot me. I'm sitting here bleeding out. Kill yourself."
Though, yeah,
that's
I get,
fucking cold.
I do get.
I like that.
I get why it might be so powerful as she's like dying in that moment, where it's just like she puts all of her energy into kill yourself. It just felt like out of nowhere.
In the
me.
book, she only puts people to sleep. Like that's her only gift is that
okay.
she can like kind of calm people down, put them to
But
sleep.
in
and
this,
all that.
she controls
full
them
control.
fully. Yeah.
But that doesn't hold up to when you see her in the movie theater. Because if she
No.
could do that, why doesn't she like, you want to give me all your money?
Right, or you want to cut your own face. Like, why do
Right.
I have to be the one to do it? Right.
Yeah,
Huh.
so that didn't follow either way.
Okay.
But that was minor. But so you remember, I think it's like 2 lines in the movie. They talk about Abra's Momo,
Yes.
who's like her grandmother.
Yeah, that's a thing Mike Flanagan does where he includes weird stuff from the book without explaining it.
Momo's a really big character.
Okay.
So, and this is going to be major.
I remember
book
them
in
mentioning it and me
spoilers.
being like, "Yeah, I know," because I've seen so much Mike Flanagan shit. I'm like, oh, I know that's something they'll probably never even come back to, and they didn't.
Right. So in the book, Momo is dying. They all go visit her. You meet Momo. She's got like all these secrets. She has a little bit of shine to her.
Okay.
She ends up being transferred to the hospice where Dan is an orderly.
Oh, well,
And-
see, okay. Again, all that makes more sense, drawing all the stuff together instead of it all just being coincidence.
Right.
Yeah.
So she's there. She's got like very late stage cancer.
Uh-huh.
She, was with Abra her whole life.
Uh-huh.
And like they're very, very close and they can kind of shine together, but Momo's is nowhere near as strong as Abra's, but she's
Okay.
aware of it and she can kind of like help sense when Abra's moods get
Okay.
real weird.
Yeah.
And so Momo goes to this hospital. Dan is the orderly. He's Dr. Sleep.
Right.
He helps facilitate her going to the hospital because at this point he's established a relationship, like a long-standing relationship with Abra and her parents.
Uh-huh.
Her parents, but definitely with Abra. And so she gets into the hospice care. She gets there. She starts dying. Dan talks to her a little bit. They kind of get to know each other. She realizes Dan and Abra have a connection. It's because Jack Torrance, when he was a college professor, had an affair with a student.
Right.
And that student is Abra's mother. So Dan really is Uncle Dan
Uncle
to Abra.
Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
shit.
That's a really big thing, and it explains the connection.
I see
Jack
why
Torrance banged Jocelyn Donahue.
No, Jocelyn Donahue
is his daughter.
is his daughter.
Yeah.
Fuck.
That makes sense though.
Age appropriate.
I see why you cut all that out of the movie. That's all too complicated. It's already
it's
an
a
almost
lot.
3-hour movie, right?
Yeah.
It's longer than The Shining.
Yeah.
It is actually a few minutes longer than The Shining, which
Which
is a
is-
very long movie.
Yeah. Crazy. So, all right. All
But
that helps.
It does. It helps a whole lot because you're like,
Yeah.
why the fuck is this kid just have like this super strong
Yeah.
random? Because that's the thing too is like and they touched on it where like she's a little child at a birthday party and she just writes hello on the chalkboard.
Yeah.
and then you jump 8 years and he's
And-
like, oh, long time no see. They
Yeah.
have a long standing relationship.
Oh, okay.
And most of it's like very banal. It's very spread far apart. Like I did well in school today. I had a bad day.
Yeah.
Like it's really minor stuff.
He's her Tony, but she's more clear on what's actually happening.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
okay.
So it's a more established relationship by the time
Okay.
you get to all the action, which that I get. Like that's an easy cut for a movie.
Yeah.
You don't need to show.
Yeah,
that.
you don't need all. Yeah.
Now, one thing that I definitely want to touch on here and hear your insights about too is that the ending of this movie kind of apes the ending of the Shining
Yeah.
book, where a possessed man turns the boiler up to full blast and destroys the hotel. Now, that's how the book ends. That is not how the Shining movie ends, obviously, but this movie, again, is kind of trying to be a sequel to both. So,
Yeah.
in the book, the Shining Hotel, the Overlook, is destroyed. And I believe that you told me earlier today that they go to basically just the substructure of where the Overlook used to be. But in the movie here, they go to the full-blown Overlook Hotel. So how is the book ending different than the movie? I'm interested to know.
The Overlook exploded with Danny Torrance
Mm-hmm.
without like he escaped.
Yeah.
So Dick Halloran lived.
Right.
Dick Halloran helped Wendy and Danny move to Florida because they never wanted to see snow ever again in their
Almost
life.
all of this is in the movie except Dick Halloran didn't live.
Right.
Though there is like indication of it in the beginning of the movie where we see Dick Halloran. Turns out he's just Shining. to a dead spirit.
Right.
Yeah.
Which,
Force ghost.
yeah, they handle, like, Dan does come back as a ghost after he dies. He dies an old man peacefully in his sleep. But he does come back as a ghost, but he's possessing the body of a dead hospice person when that happens.
Okay.
So it gets weirder.
Yeah.
Which is an easy cut again.
Yeah, and that is an easy cut because that would have been one of those situations where, well, I guess a hospice person dies, then they start talking again, and we're supposed to somehow get its Dick Halloran.
Exactly.
Yeah, just cut that.
That's completely easy. So Dick Lives kind of helps Danny train. Danny's alcoholism mutes his shine.
Yeah.
There's a whole lot in the sequel book of the different variations on how people shine.
Right.
So you they
go
gave
into
you like
it a little in the movie, but not much.
Yeah, where it's like, the house eats people. There are people who eat people like the house did. Like there's a lot more of that in the book, which I found really, really interesting.
Yeah,
part of why I
and
like
that's
the book
the best
so much.
part of the movie is all the new stuff where it's like all this group of people going around and feeding off of the shine. Like,
right.
That's so interesting and made the first 2 acts of the movie really interesting.
They never called them RV people, which they do
Is that
throughout
what they
the
call
whole
in the book? Okay.
And I love, and now every
RV
time I'm
people.
driving down the interstate and I see like 2 or 3 in a row, I'm like, RV people.
I love that there's these like bohemian gypsy carny people, but also they never directly call them vampires.
No,
per se. Like the word vampire is never said, but they're essentially
definitely
vampires.
Psychic vampires. Yeah,
they feed off of what they call steam, which is kind of like the spirit energy.
The shine, yeah.
It's the same thing. It's like, and which is how they go into so much of it before is that some people call it the shine, some people call it magic, some people call it psychic abilities. Like they call it steam.
Okay.
That's just their name for it.
All right. So this is Walking Dead rules where everybody has their own word for zombie. It's just not zombie.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
Okay, so the ending in the book, they do go back to the site of the Overlook.
Yeah, it's like a national campground now. Billy is there, not dead because he doesn't die.
Right.
Billy is there protecting Dan as backup. Abra is there astral projecting from a hotel with the doctor.
To keep her safe.
Neither of her parents die. They're both fully aware of what's happening. They're both unhappy about what's going on.
Right.
We got a dead dad here.
Yeah.
Dead dad. Black metal.
Mm-hmm. And so... and they basically... When Momo died, after she and Dan talked, Dan was with her because he's Dr. Sleep. He always with him. She was dying of cancer.
I really liked that part of the movie, by the way. I thought that was really affecting. Like, it gave him more of a character than just the kid from The Shining. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So he's with her when she dies. She has cancer. It's like eaten up, like her entire body's eaten with it. Mm-hmm. When she dies, her steam releases. He ingests her cancerous steam. Holds it, and he starts getting sicker and sicker and sicker.
Because it's in him, okay.
They have this huge confrontation.
The idea is that her entire, like, her being was infected, not just her body?
Well, no, okay, so the True Knot in the book are dying off.
Oh, okay.
You just see them cycle and die when they get shot or injured to the point where that's where that starts happening.
Yeah.
There's some kind of illness that's sweeping through the True Knot.
So they're all suffering through this
and that's bringing also like panic of like we have to find more people. So that's why Billy's death is so violent. That's why they're like so desperate to find Abra because they're dying off. They're watching their core group die.
Huh.
And we get a little bit of that whenever we have the old man, the grandpa guy, like die off.
Yeah.
And it is a gruesome scene.
It is a gruesome death.
And they did that perfectly. I love the way that they handled this.
That was really well done.
But so they do have the shootout that you see where Billy dies in the movie, but in the book he's not dead. He's guarding Dan.
Okay.
So those people are dead. Then they break into this campground to confront Rose and whoever is left because a lot of people have died. A lot of people die in the shootout. And Dan breaks into where they're sleeping, wakes them up and breathes this cancerous steam on them.
Oh.
They ingest it and they die.
Badass.
Then he goes and he and astral projection Abra fights Rose
Okay.
on the leveled parking ground of where the Overlook used to be.
Gotcha.
He is unboxing some of the ghosts and sending them out to attack people. And
So he doesn't do it all at once like he does in the movie.
Yeah,
Right,
it's piecemeal. Like he unlocks each
I also
box.
like the idea that he has some control over them because he's had them in his mind for so long.
Right, yeah. So he chooses to release them.
Gotcha.
And then he and Abra are fighting Rose, and they're starting to lose. And then Jack Torrance shows up and saves him, like kind of like helps push Rose over the edge. So she
this
dies.
is like Jack Torrance's spirit stuck in the Overlook.
Correct.
Who's
Because the
come
Overlook ate
around.
him. Yeah.
While we're on the subject, let's talk about how do you guys think that the stand-in recreation of Jack Torrance guy did? I thought that his voice wasn't exactly right, but honestly, it's like anybody doing a Jack Nicholson impression
Right.
kind of sounds like a phony anyway.
Yeah, he could have gone full Christian Slater with it, but he does do the physicality well, and
He did the physicality
mannerism.
really well.
The voice might not be perfect, but everything else he does a really good job.
But again, to me, it's still better than weird CGI fake
I agree.
face.
Yeah.
Like, I'm totally okay with just, I don't know, find somebody who looks kind of like him, recast it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a fucking movie. Use your imagination. It's Jack Torrance. Just go with it, you know?
Yeah, I'm with that. I agree with you. So, yeah, I would say you did a good job. I would say all the stand-ins in general, like, did a good job. The only one I had the biggest problem with was the Great Party, Isn't It guy, because he didn't have a British accent.
We were talking about that yesterday. He's like, great party, isn't it? And it's like, no, it's great party, isn't it? He's supposed to be very British.
Doesn't Ewan McGregor, he mentions that guy, and when he does the impression of him, it's British accent. Yep. So why didn't they have the guy have a British accent?
One of the weird things to me is that they brought back so many people that were in The Shining. We have the corpse lady from the bathtub.
The twins.
We have the twins.
Party guests.
Yeah, exactly. All these guys. They didn't bring back weird, fucked up dog man.
I know.
Bear suit blowjob guy.
I kept waiting for him to show up around the
I
corner.
kept waiting for just a tiny Easter egg at the very least, like off in the distance.
Like a little paw on the ground upside down.
That would have been great.
Well, dude, especially like there towards the end whenever, basically Danny unleashes all these shining ghosts onto Rose, and they're like, it honestly kind of reminded me of Society, where they're like putting their hands into her
where they're
face
like
and
merging
shit.
into her.
Really gruesome and weird. It's like, what would be more fucked up than to have that fucking dog man
just suddenly show up
with his
just
fucking
a
butt
flash
out?
of him.
Give me that. That would be way disturbing, and I would be very okay with it. I kept waiting on that, and it never really happened.
I had a little bit of trouble with the way Rose died because it was so anticlimactic. She's built up the whole movie as this badass, and then she's being a badass, and then suddenly she's dead.
Kind of, sort of.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of, sort of.
I wish there was a little bit more of like maybe her having to deal with each ghost, or like instead of them just all swarming her immediately,
Well, I like that he kind of unleashed it and brought back the things that haunted him to destroy her. I like that.
I don't have any problem with that.
I'm honestly not sure that I love that preceding that was basically a reenactment of the famous staircase scene. That was
a definite
I hated
reenactment.
that.
It was a full reenactment, and it was bad. Yeah.
They would have done better just to try something new after that.
Yep.
I mean, that's one of the most well-known shots of that movie. And then, like I said, to do this
they even flash to it a little bit afterward. It's like, come on,
it's
guys.
just like kind of a reminder, like, hey, remember how this wasn't as good as it was the first time? Oh,
yeah, I do.
Yeah. Yeah, I think they could have come up with a better way around that rather than reenacting that scene. I was satisfied with her death. I liked that she got swarmed by
that could have worked for me. I just
ghosts.
wish it had been dragged out a little bit more because she was such a badass before that it was just such a quick death.
It was very sudden. I thought that it was very, very sudden.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a big, long, like psychic fight. I mean, it's a Stephen King. Like, it's not a great fight,
Right.
but it's
It's still much more interesting in the
and
book, I imagine. Yeah.
it's Dan and her and then Abra's astral projecting into it and helping, and then Jack shows up and like helps push it over the edge, and that's it. There's not a ton of interaction between Dan and Jack. Like they just wave.
Huh?
They wave to each other across the cliff, and
instead
that's
of having the whole like the bar scene.
None of that nonsense.
Okay, does Danny die at the end of the book?
No, nobody dies. Dan doesn't die. Billy doesn't die. The doctor doesn't die. Abra doesn't die. Abra's parents don't die.
Does Rose die? Rose dies.
Rose dies and Momo dies.
Okay, Rose and Momo are dead.
Yeah.
Momo, a character who's not even in the movie.
Right, yeah.
Right.
But major in the
only
book.
two people who die.
Dan had some real faith that Abra, a fucking, 14-year-old girl stranded on a snow and ice-covered mountaintop with a car that she doesn't know how to drive, would just be able to find her own way out.
It really was just
the police showed up, even though it's supposed to take hours and hours for anybody to get to the Overlook.
Yeah, like
police
the
were there
idea,
instantly.
Like if they had her instead, and this would have worked better for me, even though I was a little bit tired of the references back to The Shining in the third act. It would have worked better to me if it had showed her staring at the building burning down, and then cut to daylight. She's standing outside freezing, and the police are coming up.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Because it would take hours for them to get there instead of minutes.
That's the thing. It's like I can buy okay, you can see the Overlook on the mountainside from miles away. You would see if it was on fire.
Yeah, so the police would
know.
eventually go up there.
But they also made such an emphasis in the original to say this place is so remote.
You're fucked.
Yep.
Yeah, and desolate and unconnected from everywhere else that you're hours and hours and hours away, and it's the heat was pretty fucking well on that place as soon as the first spark was lit, y'all.
Yeah.
I don't really know about
just
that.
to cut to daylight. It wouldn't have cost them more money. Cut to daylight. You don't even have to show the burnt out building. Just show the little girl being like, I'm cold because it stopped burning. And oh, good, the police are coming. Yeah. That's a more believable ending.
So, Kate, do you think the book or movie ending was more satisfactory?
Oh yeah, book totally.
Okay,
the movie was Ready Player One.
Yeah, it was so Ready Player One.
It was so Ready Player One. And I was the whole time I'm watching, I'm like, this seems weird. And then you came in, Steven, and said it's ready, and I'm like, oh fuck yeah, that's it. That's exactly what it is. We're watching Ready Player One.
Yeah, where it's like that was a cool thing, right?
Yeah,
it was.
It was great.
The funny thing about it was as we were watching the movie, it was right about that point, right where the third act was starting. And I was, it's I knew we were going to be doing a little mini episode on this. And I was thinking to myself, I was like, man, in terms of review notes, I'm so stoked that this hasn't leaned all that heavily on The Shining and The Overlook and Stanley Kubrick's movie and stuff. And then literally after I said that in my head, Dan Torrance was like, I know where we need to go.
Yeah.
And
Colorado.
it was all shiny, 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 shiny. So it's oh. Well, okay. All right. It honestly kind of felt like something that I read in an IMDb review, really late last night. Somebody just happened to word it this way. And, they gave it a 1-star review, which I obviously don't agree with,
I disagree with that.
Somebody worded it in such a way that I was like, you know what? That actually is pretty accurate. They said it's kind of like the third act of the movie is like a Disney ride of The Shining, where you're floating through the ride and you see all the characters that you know, and they say their signature lines.
Yeah.
Like, come play with this, nice party, isn't it, etc. And it takes away the scariness of those characters to see them presented in such a, pastiche sort of way.
Yeah.
But it feels kind of like a Disney ride.
It does.
In a way.
Yeah.
At the same time, it's I am such a fucking sucker for any of that shit. I mean, my favorite part of Ready Player One was the shit where they were in The Shining. Yeah, it's I will give anything just to revisit those locales and those characters and stuff. So I feel like kind of a sucker for being cool with it. But at the same time, yeah, I can complain about it a little bit.
Were those the same sets? I'd love to know if those were the exact, because they look...
I don't think they were.
Very similar.
You found something, because I was thinking the elevators pouring blood.
They went back and recreated all of that. They did a good job.
Okay, here's the thing.
It looks great.
Yeah.
There are a few reused shots from The Shining.
Okay.
The scene where they're driving up to the hotel, and it's that aerial helicopter shot of the water and the island
this time.
That is actually the original shots from The Shining that they have retouched with color and added snow to digitally. But those
Okay.
are the shots.
I could tell it was digitally enhanced, but yeah, it looks so much like
the
it.
elevator blood scene, which I kind of like that it's kind of shown that through Rose's eyes, like she sees that elevator of blood and she's kind of like fucking sick.
Like, this is awesome.
Yeah,
this
she's
is
not
what
scared
I've
by it.
been
She's
looking
like,
for.
this
Yeah.
power, this place is amazing.
Yeah.
I like that, but I'm not sure if that's a recreation or if that is the actual footage that they retouched to make the walls look dirty and grungy and stuff, because
Maybe. Yeah.
there's so many details. Again, I'm such a
I think
fucking
the
nerd
chairs
for this stuff,
are
dude.
different. That's what I kept noticing. I think
don't
the
know
chairs
that
are
they
a little
are.
different. I'm not positive though.
They looked odd to me too.
Okay.
But I've not done any research on
So
any of it.
if they redid it, that's the hardest thing to redo other than the helicopter shot. So
I mean, the hardest thing to redo in that blood scene is the mysterious apparent body in the blood. Do you know about all this shit?
no.
No, it's one of his conspiracy theories. I don't buy
okay.
into it. I've never seen it.
This
So
is-
there's apparently a body in the blood coming out of the elevator.
yeah, this is one of those
Uh,
Call It of Learning, Rob Ager things that you can find on YouTube and stuff.
I have to look that up.
It's interesting, and it's one of those things that after it's pointed out, you can see it. Whether it's a body or not is completely up for debate,
Right.
obviously. But yeah, in the initial tidal wave of blood, it's not for sure. There is something that looks like a mass that's in the blood,
Okay.
like it would be the upper part of a torso and a
Gotcha.
head. And that is actually in this. So I'm not sure if they took the original footage from the
Yeah.
Kubrick estate and retouched it. Like
It
they did
is
with the
something
overhead shots.
like
I don't know.
Here's the thing: like the first two acts are a really great separate movie, and it is something where I don't like the third act, but I will be going back and comparing the two probably and seeing like how well did they recreate this, because it looked
I'm very
so
much
good.
looking forward to whatever YouTuber like does a side by side.
I would
and
love
I will
to
watch
see the
that.
side by side comparison. It would be very interesting.
One of the things that stood out the most for me in this movie that I want to talk about is the violence and gore.
Oh my god!
There's not necessarily a ton of it, but let's start with one of the more.
There's some fucking crazy.
There's
violence.
some crazy shit. Let's start with one of the things that I've seen firsthand, which is the degloving of a hand. Whenever Rose is stuck in the
This is
dream.
a Mike Flanagan thing. Watch Gerald's Game if you want to see a hardcore degloving of a
You
hand.
want to
Shit.
see that, baby?
Yeah,
No.
because that degloving is like fucking brutal, and the one in Gerald's Game is a full like from the wrist degloving, but the one in this movie felt to me
It looked so
felt
good.
real. Oh
Well,
I was clutching
yeah.
my left hand.
yeah, I was just like, oh fuck.
as the one person who is sitting around this table who has literally ripped the skin off of her own hand before, would you say that is pretty accurate?
It looked pretty good, yeah. That looked real accurate.
It really
I mean,
did.
I grabbed my hand that it has
I
been
bet.
almost a decade since I
Yeah.
heard it, and I like clutched it to my chest going, oh my god, ow, 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 ow.
They portrayed it
It
so
looked
fucking like the
good.
way that the skin was bunched up,
Oh,
like
dude, and it
around the
does that.
knuckles.
Yeah.
And,
Cinches
yeah, of
up.
course
I
it
mean,
does. Yeah,
It looks like you're taking a glove off.
yeah,
It's fucking disgusting.
yeah. It was brutal.
It was beautiful makeup work. And I'm cringing right now thinking
Yeah,
about it.
yeah.
I thought that the death scenes with the true knot and stuff were cool. I loved how they would breathe
Oh, yeah,
in
yeah.
and you would kind of see like transparencies of their anatomy and stuff. They would almost look
Yeah.
again, I saw dumbass reviews that are like, why did they turn to zombies when they die?
They
It's like,
didn't. They
no,
were-
they're already dead. You're
Yeah.
seeing that they are corpses inside.
Yeah.
It's like their true form is being revealed
Yeah,
as they
their
die.
exterior is their shine, right? Like
Did
they're
they call it-
basically projecting this vision.
Correct, yeah. Did they call it cycling in the movie?
No. Oh, did they?
Yeah,
they did. Oh, okay.
Yeah, they're like
Well-
old grandpa cycling. Or
Oh
Okay,
yeah,
yeah.
they did, and I was like, "Well, I bet that means something in the books," but
Yeah.
they never explain it in the movie.
That's
yeah.
a big, and that's
Yeah.
what they call the death part.
Oh,
is
okay.
that
Cycling.
because you do like go in it, but it lasts days. Like Grandpa died
Yeah.
over weeks.
And that actually kind
It's
of happens in the
brutal.
movie where like he feeds and he gets like younger, but then the next time we see him, he's old again already. Like, okay,
So you,
gotcha.
you kind of see it a little bit more, but it's brutal, and I loved the way the movie did
Yeah.
it. I thought it looked great.
I thought so too, man. The
I agree.
death of that baseball boy
That's
was
the most brutal part of this
absolutely fucking punishing.
because they torture
That
a child.
was- dude. The thing is like, yeah, they abduct this baseball player, like 11-year-old that has the shine, and he
Yeah.
uses it to predict like pitches that
Yeah.
pitchers are throwing and shit like this. They abduct him. They tie him down. He's like, "Are you gonna hurt me?" And she's like, at this point, you're thinking like the usual movie tropes, like, "No, it'll only hurt for just a second." Slit his throat, then he's dead. She's like, "No, we are gonna hurt you and torture you. Fear and pain purify
the smoke,
the steam,
yeah,
which is kind of reminiscent of stuff that like Pennywise the Clown says, as far as like the fear makes you taste better."
Yeah, this does because The Shining
also from Monsters Inc.
Oh yeah, it is
too. Yeah.
The Kubrick Shining is like Kubrick, but this ties back into a Stephen King-averse where it's like, oh no, like fear as a feeding mechanism is a big thing in his books. So like, I think that this does a better job of being part of the Stephen King-averse that is being established more readily now than was in 1980 when Kubrick made.
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair. But man, whenever they start cutting that kid up, and it's like there's multiple cuts
brutal,
where
man.
it just goes back to him more and more, and he is just more and more covered in blood and just screaming.
Yeah.
That kid did such a good job.
He did,
and
yeah.
in the end, when he's like crying and screaming, and like, I mean, he is doing a great job.
He really is.
It's really disturbing. It is really, really disturbing to me, because it's like, it's one thing to see a kid like get killed in a horror movie. I mean, we've seen that in several flicks, but this kid's being slowly tortured and screaming and crying for his life, and it's actually very fucking disturbing.
Yeah.
It is very, very disturbing.
The rarity of killing a child in a horror movie in this movie is like supplanted by the absolute rarity of torturing a child to death in a horror movie. That's just not a thing you see. I can't think of another instance, honestly.
I can't think of any. There's also a dead baby in this.
There is also a dead baby. What?
It's not always shocking, but when it is, it's fucked up.
It's pretty shocking. Yeah.
That the ghost of that woman and her dead kid come into play a lot. Like that's kind of that's his like trigger for alcohol
away in the
like,
movie.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
You see them
Pascal
a lot.
Pascal from The Shining.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, and you see the
Pet Cemetery. Sorry.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Pascal, Pet Cemetery.
You see, like he briefly talked about the flies. There's a lot of visuals in the book. Like even as a hospice
he talks
worker,
about his
like
mother's
with the
face being covered in them by the time.
Yeah,
she
when
died,
people are dying, they start getting surrounded by flies, and they start. So like part of his hospice work as Dr. Sleep is he sees all these flies all the time.
Is the cat part of the book?
Yep.
Okay.
Azrael.
Cat's adorable.
Yeah. Angel name, which I thought was real weird. It's a weird pull.
That is a strange name.
But I don't know. But yeah, the cat.
Azrael wasn't necessarily associated with the transfer from life to death, as far as I remember.
No, he's one of the main. Like he was up there with fucking Morningstar. Yeah.
Yeah.
Archangel.
Okay.
Like he's.
That's an interesting
one
choice.
of the main. Yeah.
Maybe just a callback to the Smurfs. Maybe. Though the cat doesn't look anything like that cat.
No, I mean it was a big fluffy white cat.
Yeah.
Even like it's kind of ghost-like.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Steve, you were talking to me earlier about how you thought that this movie drew some very obvious influences from a couple other flicks. Why don't you talk about some of those
a couple of
bit?
movies that are pre Stephen King writing this, and that's Nightmare on Elm Street and The Sixth Sense. The Nightmare on Elm Street, specifically the fights in the dreams that we do see occur.
Some of which are amazing. Dude, that scene of where Rose starts astral projecting and it's just her floating above the city. Yeah. But it's also more like, it's not so much that she is floating above the world, it's that the world is like revolving around her.
Yeah, I like that.
So beautiful.
I like how it seems to be moving around her, yeah. But what I really saw was specifically The Sixth Sense in the final, like, mother-daughter talk.
Oh yeah,
which is very much like Tony Collette
weird.
and what's his name,
Haley Joel
Osment in the car sitting in the traffic where he tells her that like he sees dead people or whatever, and that he's seen grandma and all that stuff. Like there's just this really similar feel to it, but also this is a vampire movie, like in so many ways.
Tying into No Vampire.
Like all of what the psychic vampirism they're doing is so very much like just a regular vampire movie. Like they're a traveling band of vampires. Would have just been just as easy as a description of psychic, whatever they are.
They're not that far off from like the Near Dark crew. I mean, they fucking roll around in an RV. There is a ragtag ancient family that's old as fuck and lives by their own rules and stuff. It's basically, imagine if in Near Dark the main characters were villains. It's not that far off from that.
Yeah, I agree with you. So yeah, this movie seems to. I mean, it's obviously working off Stephen King. So Stephen King seems to have been taking from some of the horror movies that had come out since then, and almost in a way, this is like the horror version of Ready Player One. Like if Ready Player One was only horror, like here are all the characters in horror in one movie. There you go. Boom.
I'm with you. I overall really enjoyed this movie.
Me too.
Like again, like I said, I couldn't go in with higher expectations of it's a follow-up of my favorite movie ever, but then the low expectations of it's a follow-up to my favorite movie ever. And it was directed by Mike Flanagan and all this kind of stuff.
Right.
I went in with pretty low expectations and ended up enjoying it quite a lot. Yeah, I agree with you that the third act of the movie does, again, feel like a Disney ride of The Shining.
Yeah.
I think that there's something about bringing back a lot of those characters, like the woman in the tub and the twins and all this kind of stuff.
She plays a pretty big role, the woman in the tub. Not that she has major moments, but she's in it almost throughout. We keep seeing flashes of her.
She's in there a lot, yeah. That almost... It almost makes like those characters feel like old friends rather than shit that fucked me up whenever I saw it the first time.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
And
that's how I felt.
That's one of those things that I will say is like, okay, like it was cool to see him again, but it also kind of makes him a little bit less scary.
Yeah.
You know, in a way. So third act is a little bit of a weak point to me, but again, that's goddamn what fucking Stephen King book are we not talking about when we say the third act was kind of weak? That's
and by the way, the third act, you're 2 hours and 10 minutes into the movie, I think. You've already got 2 hours and 10 minutes of good movie.
Pretty cool shit.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't have had any of it if they weren't trying to match up the Kubrick movie.
Exactly. That's true. If they weren't trying to stick... Like, the fact that a sequel to The Shining comes with the caveat, you got to at least approach the Kubrick movie. And they did a good job of that, I think.
I think I was pretty pleased with the way they handled it. I have major disagreements.
Me too.
But it makes sense the way they had to do it.
Yeah, it does. It does. They were painted into a certain corner, and there were only a couple ways to go at it.
Yeah, because that's the thing is like if they didn't go back to the Overlook and they didn't see the twins and they didn't say, "Come play with us," like people would be pissed.
That's true.
People would be pissed.
People would be pissed. So you do have to play to your audience. So
exactly. I mean, honestly, there is no good way to write a sequel to The Shining. No. There's no good way to make a movie sequel to The Shining. It's like that is again one of, if not the most beloved pieces in the crown of horror history. Yeah. There's no way you're going to write something that either improves on it or harkens back to it in a way that is going to satisfy people. You can't do it.
No, I think this is a movie worth watching. It's good. It's enjoyable. If you love The Shining as much as we do, the third act will probably be a little disappointing. If you're not as huge on The Shining, this might just be a good horror movie for you. Yeah.
If you read the book, you're like, I don't think that guy dies.
What happened here?
Which is what I did.
Yeah.
Hey, what happened?
He wasn't supposed to die, right? Yeah. Did I forget that?
So I'm gonna say overall,
recommend.
I recommend it.
Yeah.
I really did like it.
I enjoyed it.
Expectations. And there are tons of Easter eggs too. Like if you're a nerd about all this shit, like, dude, I mean
the casting alone.
Yeah.
Watch it for the casting.
Yeah.
The casting is amazing.
Yeah, and then I mean even just like little tiny things like Abra's street number is 1980, or her house number. I mean, which is of course the year the movie came out. The first room that somebody dies in that the cat like predicts is 217.
Yeah.
I mean, there's like even like smaller, tinier, little weird shit that they picked up on that like just Shining fans have picked up on that they put in this movie. One of those scenes where Dan is working the desk at the hospice care place, right? Mm-hmm. he's reading a magazine and he puts it down. It's totally that July Playgirl issue that's from the first Shining.
Is
movie.
it?
Yeah, he's totally reading that magazine.
The interview.
Oh yeah, and dude, the fact that for the job interview, it's totally just Ullman's office.
Oh yeah, that is the same exact
Direct.
office. Yeah.
The weird like hands
Yeah.
and like everything. That
Yeah.
was so weird.
Those are callbacks that, like, if you've seen The Shining enough, you're like, obvious. But if you're just somebody who's a normal person and has seen The Shining
Right.
like once or twice, you'd be like, I don't know why, but this connects me back to that movie. Like, you
Yeah,
just wouldn't
totally.
catch the very obvious reference. Yeah.
And Dan, during his AA meeting speech, is wearing like
Uh-huh.
a blue sweater. Which
Yeah,
is kinda
that
like the
sweater looks
Apollo
so much like
sweater.
the Apollo sweater. Like, even the
Yeah.
stitching is like
Exactly.
a little
Big
odd
over
the same way. Yeah.
kind of stuff. Yeah, it's like there's a lot of little things that if you're a fucking geek about The Shining like I am, reference back, and they're there and they're
Yeah.
present. So it's like I think they had lots of respect for the source material and just the source material that nerds like me make up about
Yeah.
shit that was there in The Shining. So I think
So
it's
it is fake.
No, I didn't say that. I'm not saying that.
I think that since we did a mini-sode not long ago of It Chapter 2, and I really loved It Chapter 1, and I was so disappointed with It Chapter 2, this is like 10 times
Oh yeah,
as good as It Chapter 2.
Definitely.
If you enjoyed It Chapter 2, not even making fun of you, I'm just saying you'll enjoy this even more, hopefully.
I was about to say, like, I enjoyed it, chapter
Yeah.
2, but this is better.
It's better, yeah.
it is better. But the book's better.
I
So-
imagine, yeah. He's had some time to get better at writing.
Jesus Christ. Sober up and be like, oh, that's what cocaine is.
So yeah, overall, I enjoyed it. I think that we all were just like, yeah, it's worth seeing. It's
Oh,
not
yeah.
I mean, it would have been so easy for this just to be pissing in the face of
Oh,
The
yeah.
Shining, and I get the impression that a lot of people feel like it is. I've read a lot of really bad reviews about it, but
Whatever.
fuck, man, you can't please everybody. Come on, but
Yeah.
to me, I am a fucking geek about everything Shining related, and I'm like, yeah, it's good. So go with that.
It's almost like somebody who likes The Shining could go into this and be like, I like The Shining more than you, meaning I hate this movie more than you will. Like, obviously, it's gonna be.
Don't be that guy.
Don't
Nope.
be that guy.
Nobody likes that guy.
Nobody likes that guy. It's not The Shining, but it's a fucking fun movie.
Okay, what's your evaluation?
Yeah, fun movie, fun book. I mean, both kind of on the same scale of like, just it's good entertainment.
Yeah.
It's, you know, you get a little bit of new stuff. It's fun. I enjoyed it. You should watch it. Casting is phenomenal.
Oh, yeah.
Camera work is
So great.
fucking
that
beautiful.
Mike Flanagan.
Just the
Even if
camera
you
work.
don't like other stuff he's done, you can say for sure that episode of Haunting of Hill House that was like 3 total shots.
Kind of one shot
Oh
episode.
Yeah.
God, that was my favorite episode.
was amazing.
Easy. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's amazing. It's good. Yeah, go see it. If you halfway like Stephen King or The Shining, you'll enjoy
Yeah,
this story.
sure.
Well, there you go, guys. Our complete mini-sode review of Dr. Sleep. Hope you guys have enjoyed it. You guys can tell us thanks by giving us dollar papers on Patreon.
Patreon.com/Dead and Lovely. Go on over there, become a $5 patron. You can give us a submission for our drawings that we do once a month, and we might cover whatever crazy movie you want us to cover.
Yeah, damn right. You guys can also follow us on social media.
At Dead Lovely Pod on Twitter and Instagram. Dead and Lovely Horror Movie Podcast Group on the Facebook. Also, youtube.com/Dead and Lovely.
all kinds of ways to follow us. Thank you guys so much for listening. I guess the next episode coming out is going to be our interview with a vampire, whenever this comes out. So you guys be sure to tune in to that. Follow us through this whole month of No Vampire, where we're talking exclusively vampire-related shit.
More like yes, vampire.
Yes, vampire. Say yes to the vampire. Well, thank you guys so much for listening. We have been Uncle Ben,
Hollywood Steve.
And Tante Kate.
We're Dead and Lovely. Bye-bye.
The Shining 2 Electric Boogaloo.